correctly with the correct amount.
Paris has been diligently working very hard at his new CD, I'm Not Jesus, which includes 12 songs of strong, deep-filled emotional lyrics that you can get a vivid picture from. He comes back with a unique classic rock sound filled with needling, catchy, addictive hooks. Having listened to Breathe and Take Me Home, all I can say is when goosebumps occur and your hair stands up on the back of your neck while listening to the melodies of the heart, a rock star is born. Check out Paris Black's music at parisblack.com. Paris Black will be performing at the Mod Club in Toronto on April 8th. The highlight of this venue is to honor Kenny McLean's new album, Completely, CD release party. A longtime friend of Paris Black, Kenneth Irving McLean was a Scottish-Canadian musician, best known as the former member of the multi-platinum selling band Platinum Blonde. Kenny passed away on November 24th, 2008. Hi, Tina here, journalist for HMTV Canada. With me today is a very honored guest. Please welcome Paris Black. Hi Paris, welcome. It's an honor having you here today on our show. I really dig your new video, Take Me Home, with Bonnie's Pics. She's a wonderful photographer that has that magic of catching tons of expression in her artwork and her photography. Curious, why are there so many variations of this video, and did you produce all these videos?
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. Definitely my honor to be here, and Bonnie does do a great job with pictures, and I've been fortunate enough to have her be my photographer for the last 5 or 6 years. Not exclusive photographer, but I worked with her an awful lot, and I appreciate all her hard work and her talent and the time that she puts in. But there's like 4 videos, as you say, or 4 videos for Take Me Home. Now, had I produced them myself, there may have just been one. I mean, because it would have been totally my thoughts and feelings on the subject. But the first video was actually done in Milan, and I think it's brilliant, actually. The Milan video is really, really good. It's very creative and very now and very European. And the guy that directed it, Federico, is basically a photographer for Vanity Fair. I met him on a shoot for Vanity Fair, and he decided to do a music video, and I, of course, was honored to have him do it. And he put together, I think, a pretty good video. So that was the first one. And then when I got back to Canada, I kept looking at it, and my manager was looking at it, and I think we decided that we wanted to have a presence of a band in it. And for the people I was working with at that moment, and still usually I am working with, were in the video as well. And we added a bit of a storyline to it that sort of mirrored what was happening in the song, obviously. And then at the end of the day, we put the two of them together. So we have sort of 3 video variations there. And the 4th variation is just sort of for the internet. It's a slideshow of Bonnie's pictures and the pictures from the Vanity Fair shoot in Italy together.
Can you tell us about your new album, I'm Not Jesus? How many song tracks will be appearing on this album?
There's 12 songs on it. I think in today's music world, it's all about each song being able to stand on its own. The days are gone, for sure, where you could have 3 or 4 good songs on an album, and then the rest of them are filler, and people would buy the album. I think nowadays every song's got to be really, really good. And I like to think that we achieved that with this album. And we do kind of go through genres of music a little bit. It's primarily a classic rock album. There's a reggae song on it, and there's definitely a punk rock song on it. And there's songs that are rock, but sort of nod their head very strongly in the direction of pop music, and very strongly in the direction of like I said, harder rock or again reggae. So it does span a few genres within the genre.
Having listened to Take Me Home and Breathe, I noticed these songs are deep, heartfelt. You can really get a visual from the lyrical content. Are most of these song things based on a storytelling concept?
Yes, I think all of us write about things that we know, and I think it's sometimes very interesting to know exactly what somebody wrote about. For instance, I'm going to be doing a show April 8th for Kenny McLean at the Mod Club, and we're doing his latest album that he has coming out. I believe it'll probably be out as of right now while we're talking. It's starting, and because I was very, very close friends with Kenny, I knew what Kenny was writing about every moment. So when he was writing these songs, I knew exactly what they were about, and I was there while it was going on. And so, for me, doing those songs and knowing exactly what he was writing about, I do feel, a lot of a connection, but I feel an equal connection if I listen to any great classic song. And I might not know what that person was writing about, but more of it is conveying the emotion. And I think that's what all of the arts do, is they convey an emotion. So whether you're painting or writing or drawing or doing an interview as you're doing, or recording a song or writing a song or listening to a song, what you're doing is having an exchange of energy and an exchange of understanding. And all of us basically are working from the same palette. So we're painting the same pictures again and again, and these pictures involve the different colors, and the different colors are love and anger and strength and weakness and insecurity and overconfidence, and all of these things. We write about them. We have feelings of exuberance. We write exuberant songs, and we have desperate moments where we feel that we're more alone. And the funny thing is that when you write a song about how alone you feel, and somebody is responding to the song, they're probably feeling alone too. And it's in feeling alone that you become one with other people feeling alone, and you become a group, and it becomes a cathartic experience where you understand each other. And it's the same thing with songs of elation. You can relate. So relate and elate to these kinds of songs. So as much as I want to say yes, it is about what just happened or what's going on. That's very much the case. I mean, I often when I'm writing, I think about what happened that day and what different people have said to me in that day, and I write little things at the side of the page. This person said this, this person said that, and often put that all together in a songs. I try to do a little bit of writing every day. So yes, it is about telling stories. But I think the stories that you want to tell the most are stories that the most people can relate to, and I think that's where the arts have always been great in society. I think they are a reflection of man.
There's one song I'm interested in, I'm Not Jesus. Can you give us a hint about the meaning behind this song?
Well, that was an odd thing to put that song as the title of the album, and because the whole way through we were thinking of calling it Dirty Kisses, which is both a more commercial name and also a lot more commercial song. I mean, as a song, I think it is a lot more radio playable and all of that. And I think it'll actually probably be the next single. But I'm Not Jesus was because at that time, and it's still going on, it had been almost 2 years recording this album. And what happens to a lot of artists, and unfortunately this is true, that you get involved with really great people, really big name producers and things like this, and the costs just escalate and escalate. They're not what you first imagine it going to be. So you might think you're getting involved with a $20,000, $25,000 proposition. You wind up being hundreds of thousands of dollars. And what happens to most artists, and it definitely would have happened to me, is that somewhere along the line you just get plowed under and you can't finish, or you do finish and then you're just dead in the water at the time you're finished. Which most people don't even get finished. And through the grace of God, I was able to get through this whole freaking process, and through people backing me, managed to get it done and move on and be very, very happy with the result. There's not one thing I would really change in the album. So I think that I was just feeling at that time that I'm only human, and I've been there before in the business where you're really up high and treated really, really well, and you're the same person as you are when you're down low. You're the same person. There's these peaks and valleys, and so while your career may rise again, the sort of savagery of the press that goes along with the adulation at another time can bring you to a place that you can't come back from. You can't come back in your personal life, and you can't come back in various different things. So whether you're a musician or any kind of artist or any kind of person, really, we all have to treat each other with a little bit of respect and dignity, because we're not Jesus. We're not necessarily going to rise from the dead again. So we should watch who we assassinate, along the road of life. And also, I did that song with Denis Martel, and it was more Denise writing in that song for sure, and I think I just wanted to thank him for hanging in with me so long on this record. I mean, he came along at a time when it was difficult. It was in a difficult. I was in a difficult place getting it done, and Denis he dropped his kids off at school and come to the studio by 9 o'clock, and then play that night till 2 or 3. We'd be in the studio, so he had to pick up his kids, and he'd bring his kids home. We'd be in the studio again until very late at night. And so I was just thanking him, I think, for hanging in with me, and that had a lot to do with getting the album done, and that song had a lot to do with, I think, Denis' input into the album. So I wanted to just to thank him. He'll always know that I'm thanking him for being a true friend and sticking by me.
What inspired you to make a comeback into the music scene with the new classic rock sound that can be hard and heavy at times from a previous rock style from the 80s?
Oh man, I am a really crazy live player, and even more than this album, I'm a fairly hard rocker in person. When you come and see me, and my inspirations were the great rock frontmen for the ages. So it was the kind of album I've always wanted to do, and even more so than this. But this is, to me, is a perfect mix of what you want to be playing live, great songs, and radio-friendly album. And what inspired me to do this at this point in time was that there's been a lot of years in between it. And it wasn't that I didn't have the confidence to do it, and I have done almost every year. I've done demos. But the thing is that I make a definite call on what's a demo and what's a finished product. And I wasn't printing off CDs of my demos. I wasn't calling these demos CDs. So in a way, I was never away from the business. But I never thought that I had really a strong enough product through and through not to be fooling myself, and to be getting people to invest the kind of money that you need to really have a chance of having a successful project in the world scene. And I didn't feel for a very long time that I was doing good enough work toward getting people to put in this kind of money into me, because I didn't believe it myself. When I finally had a bunch of songs I know I was going to be doing that all seemed to be world class to me, not all of which I wrote, by the way. So that was pretty heavy for me to do other people's songs. But it was that in the end, with music, it's all about the song. It's all about the song. Like, it's about the song and the story. It's the song. So if you're not doing the very greatest songs available, that you, and if every song, it's not just that your friends will say it's really good, but everybody says that's a great song, because that you've got to humble yourself and say it's not you, it's the song. So when I finally had the song, and finally had the right producers in place, I knew I could finally move forward. And also, it was that times were right. Although I had, I think, more success than I possibly deserved back in the day, because I listen to my music now and I'm not all that impressed with it. But and if you're a fan of it back then, please accept my apologies on that. I'm sure that at the time that I liked it a lot, and I'm sure if you liked it then, it means something to you in your life. And I'll certainly do those songs live and everything. But I mean, I was coming out at a time, and I remember I was on the CFTR chart, and I got knocked off the chart by Vanilla Ice's Ice Ice Baby, or whatever that song was. So I was coming in at a time when my style of music was moving out, so my market share was sort of going down. So it's some really good success, but I wasn't, music went that way for a long time. And now we're seeing, again, the strength of pop and rock coming back, and things are cyclical. There was rap was coming on, and I was a huge fan of rap. I mean, I actually produced a rap album early for HTV, Pimp with the Microphone, that got signed by Tommy Boy Records. I had a fairly close relationship, well, fairly close, but relatively close, where I was talking to Ice-T for a bit, and we were going to do a rave opera, and where I was going to be a holographic figure, and Archangel Gabriel, and so this is not that I haven't been a rap fan, but I think that rap music started off being an incredible social collage, and was really something special. And then very quickly it became a commercial enterprise, and I call it rapidalism. about issues. It became about it became about bling and everything. It just lost all of its any grandeur it had until it went from being the most intelligent of the communication forms that were going on in storytelling and music to easily the least intelligent. So it was almost like making fun of the people that brought the art form to being. So that rapidalism has killed it. So now rap is pretty much dead. I know that people would argue with me in certain urban centers, but worldwide and even in Canada, and generally urban music is down to about 25% of where pop and rock music are. So things are cyclical, and I think now I've just sort of waited long enough and kept doing what I basically do, as well as dabbling in other things. Because I think all music forms are great. And as I said, I have produced a fairly successful rap album for another artist, and I've produced dance albums that have done pretty well over the 90s and things. But for myself, for what I wanted to do, I think that I was around long enough to become fashionable again, and the years have been pretty kind, and so here I am back again. I think doing an album that's but 1,000 times better than anything I've done before, and I'm just really grateful that I got it accomplished. And there's not one note played one way that I would feel incorrect about. And there's hundreds of tracks on every song, so it took a long time, and I'm just very grateful to have gotten this result from artistically from the album anyway.
Are you still working with engineer Mark Berry for your music?
Mark and I are currently not working together at the moment. He did a great job on the record, and I'm grateful to him for that. We first met about 20 years ago, and that time I was a teen idol, and he'd just done Billy Idol, and he'd done Duran Duran. He produced Billy Idol, Duran Duran, Madonna, a lot of the top acts at the time, and so I was honored to work with him then, and I guess it took us a long time to work together again. I guess we didn't have the best experience the first time, but I think we thought the album came out pretty good, and so this time it's pretty much the same thing. I'm happy the way the album turned out.
What were some of the challenges in recording I'm Not Jesus?
Wow, where to begin? First of all, I'm grateful that it got done, and the initial figures that were, there was a lot of challenges in doing it. Initially, for about 10 years, I'd actually been working on this project, this idea of a comeback project with Kenny McLean, and we'd been writing songs and doing demos every year, and I just didn't really feel like they were, they were great, but they weren't great enough, and Kenny was a dear friend and a great writer, and so we worked together really well that way, but at the end of the day, they were sounding, to me, like what we were doing was sounding like demos. And a lot of it was because, Kenny and I had a close friendship, and he was a mentor to me, and I think he didn't want to ask me for money for things, and so there was always, the recordings themselves sounded pinched. They didn't sound quality enough, really. So after a long time of that, I had an opportunity to work with Mark Berry again, and my guitar player, Marcus Hahn, on a Billy Idol tribute that I was doing, was working with Mark, and he said, I should work with Mark Berry. He's really chilled out a lot. He's a cool guy, and so we ended up working together, and for one reason or another that I won't go into, the budget just kept going up and up and up and up, and so by the end it just ballooned way out of proportion. But like I said, I was fortunate to have backers that believed in me and believed in the song and had seen me do really kill live, so they knew it was gonna work, and I guess they'd seen my interaction with the public just tends to be the main thing that swings people. So just thank God that people stuck by me and really toughed it out. And part of this was I went to Italy for a while, got signed to a pretty good manager over there. There became some really bizarre circus-like complications to this deal, and it just went out to be like a year of stress. And I'm not gonna air my dirty laundry in public, but it was really almost unbelievable. I mean, really unbelievable story. And just through the grace of God and good friends, I got through it and managed to come out the other side of a very, very long struggle. And Denis and I actually wrote a whole other album too. So there's an album finished that has songs with Denis and songs with Kenny that's ready to go as well. So it was a very long struggle, and of course the struggles to be met financially financially were the most difficult, but also it was struggles of spirit, and that people that I would be working with, band members would lose faith in the project because things weren't happening quickly enough, and now that it's such a good project and things are happening for me, I feel bad for them that they didn't want to stick with it, but that's one thing I think musicians have to be. Unfortunately, it's not in our nature. We've got to be patient, because if you want to do something at the very top level, it takes two things, and one or the other in extreme abundance. So time and money, and of course talent and heart and all of those things. But if you have a lot of time, and we're talking 15 years, 10 years, 12 years, that's how long it took Kenny to do the album that he has coming out now, posthumously, or whether you have unlimited money, and we're talking with unlimited money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, you could do something great. But if you have limited money and limited time, then you're going to be talking about a fairly long timeline in terms of getting the songs together, demoing them, and the demos should sound pretty much like the songs are going to sound there, so they're just almost good enough, and then finishing the production, and then marketing, and that's where most people, including myself, you start running into a block because you want to do everything at the highest level while you're recording, and there's no more money for marketing. So that's a constant struggle. And your personal relationships will suffer. Everything will suffer, because during the time you really want to go for it at the top level and not be fooling yourself. You have to struggle, and there is in this day and age, in most day and ages, that there's always been some sort of struggle for an artist to go through to get something done at the highest level, and it's not easy, and you're kind of like Blanche Dubois. You're relying on the kindness of strangers constantly, and so I've been fortunate with that.
Little is known about your band. Can you tell us about your current lineup and something funny about their personalities?
Well, I have a number of musicians I play with. Denis Martel he was the guitar player, the main guitar player in Kenny McLean's band Clear since 1995 or so, and just a fantastic all-around player, a great songwriter, great person, great guitar player, just a fantastic singer, absolutely unbelievable. And there's lots of funny things about Denis. I mean, when he's playing he plays every weekend, at least with his band, the High Rollers, at least 3 or 4 times a weekend. And although he's from Quebec and I will ram you in the boards kind of guy, I love that thing, he really backs the Toronto Maple Leafs. He wears a Maple Leafs shirt while he's playing all the time, and if there's a hockey game on while he's playing, he'll take really long breaks in his songs while he's watching what's going on. I could say that he climbs trees and peels people and eats them like bananas, but that's not true. So he's not a crack dealer anymore. So no, he never was. Anyway, that's Denis Martel. He's a great guy and a great guitar player. Also on guitar, when the gig warrants or when he's not available, or whether it's a kind of gig that suits Marcus, I have Marcus Hahn, who's a tremendous player, great guy, and stuck by me for a very long time in the project, and I really appreciate that. On bass, Jason Farrar is the bass player that is playing with me most often. Chris Brown plays as well, and just really awesome. And Craig Knight is going to be playing a few gigs as well. They're all great bass players, great people, and they're just really funny guys. They're all really fun guys to hang around with. I think part of the live show that's really good is that we all joke around a lot, and it really works. So, and I find all my bass players are pretty funny guys this way, so it works really great. And Joe Power played on the record, actually. He's just an awesome bass player and a really great showman and a great guy. On drums, we have Sasha, and Sasha was in Platinum Blonde, and Denis actually was in Platinum Blonde for a while as well.
Wow. And
Sasha is just a wonderful person. I'm just so honored to work with him, and he's done all the live gigs lately, and like I say, he's just a fantastic human being. Also, I worked with Dan Todd on the project. He's just, again, a great guy, and Sheldon Thomas played frequently on the album. And Sheldon's just the sweetest guy you could ever meet, and a great player as well. So these drummers are just fantastic, and I feel really, really grateful to be playing with these guys. They're people that I've always envisioned having drummers of this caliber, and I've been fortunate enough to constantly get good drummers to work with me, and I'm very grateful for that. other than that, I guess there'll be people coming and going from the band, and we may, I may move the music a little bit this way and that way. I may play some pop concerts where we may be looking at a more triggered sound in the percussion to go along with the drummer, and I may play, a harder rock shows where different people will sort of find their way in and out of the band. So I think, I can tell you funny stories from the road for sure, but with this particular group here, I haven't been on the road with them too much yet, so don't have stories pertaining to them, but as human beings, they're all great people, and all musicians are a bit quirky. I guess there's always funny stories. I mean, there's a guy named Dan Fila who used to play drums for me that was like a running funny story, because funny things always happened around Dan. He's a very dramatic guy, and strange things happened. I feel very grateful to work with the people that I'm working with now.
Who helped with the mixing and mastering of your new album, I'm Not Jesus?
Sasha helped a lot with it, and Mark Berry did a lot of the mixing, and just a great mixer. Gary Onus actually also engineered a lot on this record, and did a lot of the mixing. And Gary he's fantastic. He was sort of Kenny's main guy other than Claude Desjardins, and Kenny and I had used him years ago to do a dance version of Don't Look Back, which Kenny had produced and wanted me to do, and I don't know if I'll ever put that out, but it came out pretty well. And but definitely Gary's a really, really talented engineer and mixer. Denis Martel had a lot to do with the mixes, and I think that I contributed something to them as well. Jim Zolas at Zolas Audio had a lot to do with the sound and the mixing, and then also the Lacquer Channel has remastered the first single, and we'll probably be doing a remastering job on the whole record at different times. And then there's Jimmy Brick in New York, who has mastered over the years, I mean, pretty much all of the huge acts. He's done Bon Jovi and Bruce Springsteen and AC/DC and a lot of the very top acts. So he did this for a while as well. But like I say, I was very hard to please, and I tinkered around a lot with this, and we may again be sending it to the Lacquer Channel, even though it's done and it's printed. I may be entering into it looks like I'm entering into a deal in Canada, different than the rest of the world deal, and I may actually have a special Canadian edition of the album that may be a little heavier and a little rockier.
The artwork for I'm Not Jesus is sweet. Did you design the CD cover for the album?
Well, my background is in visual arts, actually. I did go to OCA, and however, no, I didn't. A friend of mine, Gabriel Regura, from Mexico, did the work, and he's absolutely tremendous. Along with Tracy Green, both of them worked really, really hard on it, and for a number of months, really. Also, Mickey Green worked on it, and a lot of it was melding the pictures that I had with an idea of being an environmental warrior, kind of a white warrior, if you will. And by what I mean, something that's for the good, and also not obviously I'm not a native Canadian or anything, but a lot of the main tenets of the Great Spirit and the different energies that go along with the earth that are mainstays of the native philosophies are I think where the world has to go in order to be properly green and to cure what ails it. So that's where the eagle feather coming out of my back, on the back of it is, and there's a lot of symbolism towards Native peoples, not only here but all the way down to Mexico with the Mayans and the whole thing, and so a lot of thought went into it, and I really appreciate the work that was done, and I'm really happy with it.
Do you anticipate a major tour once the album is released?
Oh, I certainly hope so. The hardest thing of getting something done and then waiting to do it in a major way is that it's a lot of people's philosophy that you shouldn't be out there, because until you have a hit, not a lot of people show up to shows, and it looks bad when you do a show and there's almost nobody there. So sometimes it's better to let the electronic media control things until there's something going or about to go, and then there's a number of people there, or to open for a big act, which is something that I'm working on at the moment. So a short answer would be yes. I certainly see that, and everything that I've done has been towards that happening. And I'm really looking forward to doing a major tour and doing really good venues and just getting it out there. And I think that's everybody's dream that ever decides to do a record.
I don't really think that you took a hiatus from the music scene since the 80s. You continue to play live as a Billy Idol tribute act.
I did quite a few tributes actually. Over the years I tributed a lot of people. But Billy Idol recently was, it was Mick Jagger's birthday party. It was Mick Jagger, Ronnie Wood, and Keith Richards all standing in a row, drinking a bottle of something, and it said Rebel Yell, had a Confederate flag on it. And I said, "You know that made up?" And Keith's like, "Oh no, it's a Southern Mass from Mississippi." And I said, "Well, Rebel Yell, lads, it's not really a Stones, it's not really a jumping shack flash, lads." And Keith's like, "No, it's not." And I said, "Well, brilliant. It was the best song I ever did, yeah." So that's my Billy Idol. All right, thank you. All righty, yeah. So, I did Billy Idol for a couple years, and I think, to me, he was a really great frontman. And when I have my hair short, I look an awful lot like him when he was younger. So, it was sort of I was a huge fan. People were always telling me you look like Billy Idol, and for years I was going on stage, and it used to really bug me when I was a pop dude a long time ago. Was every time I would go on stage, everybody would go, Billy, and do Rebel Yell, or something. So, it led to me finally at one of Kenny's shows, actually, that we were doing in the Indian Motorcycle Club, with Platinum Blonde, actually, a number of years ago. And I did Rebel Yell, and the roof just rose. It's just like people associated me so closely with that image and everything, so that it ended up working really well. And then as, got my hair longer and everything, I still did Billy Idol for a bit. And it ended up serving me pretty well. I was at Madame this year, and it went very well, thank you very much. And while I was there was a stage at Madame where artists could go up and sing, but you wouldn't know what song was going to come up. So, so that people wouldn't just sort of be hogging the stage, and artists would be kind of afraid to go up, because if you don't know what song's coming up, So, anyway, I went up there because one of the labels wanted to see me on stage, and the song that came up was White Wedding. So I figured somebody was smiling down at me with angel wings, because I certainly hit that one out of the park. So it was great doing Billy Idol. And I think when you tribute people, you tribute not just them, but also the people that influence them. So I think in doing Billy Idol, you're tributing Jim Morrison and Elvis and the Sex Pistols and Generation X, and all the things that informs Billy Idol into being Billy Idol. You're tributing all those people. You don't just look at your influence; you look at your influence's influence. And these are all people that I really adored, and I was happy to do that tribute.
Can you tell us about your collaborations with Platinum Blonde, Aerosmith, the Tragically Hip, and the Scorpions? Did you share the stage with these great artists, or do some songs with them?
For the most part, it was just sharing stages. For a number of years, I was at the Junos every year, and they would have different events where all the artists would come, and you do, not all the artists, but everybody that friends, all the soloing artists would do something, and sometimes all the majors would get together and have people do things. And so it was on those nights that I worked with all these bands. And with Platinum Blonde, it was different because I was very close with Kenny, so I got a chance to work with them frequently. But to open or to work with them. But there was other artists too. There was MC Hammer way back in the day that I opened for as well. So I think over a long career, you wind up putting up some names that you're surprised that you can put up. Mm-hmm. If you're out there for quite a while, and if you reach a fairly high level, then you do end up being able to work with some of the great acts. And at the time it's going on, you don't really think anything of it, because while it's happening, you're generally at that level too, so you're not particularly starstruck by it all, but you're just there for a moment. So then when you come back down to Earth, you kind of think of the planets you were orbiting around, and it becomes pretty exciting.
I was surprised when I read your bio. For years you've been an international model and actor, and some of your projects coming up are the Guest Jeans Guy for a few calendars and the Prophecy of the Sun's Son. Can you tell us about these projects?
I'm excited about all of them. I have not paid much attention to them in the last couple of years, but some of the things that are happening now, there's the Guest campaign, which is still on and off. It a lot has to do with my deal with Universal in Europe, and these ads coming out in at the same time as the singles. Well, that's wrong. I'll go back on that. A lot has to do with these ads coming out at the same time as my singles come out over there. I've been a calendar model for years, actually. It sounds kind of odd, but I ended up working in South Beach for a while and did a lot of fitness modeling there. And a lot of those pictures started turning up in calendars, so almost every calendar I would look at, because those pictures are licensed out, I would end up being in. So about a year and a half ago, I did the Hedonism calendar, which was a lot of fun, and it was like some of the top male models in the world were in it. So it was fun to do, and I have a few more coming out. I've got a deal that I'll be probably doing some pictures for Nike coming up, and we were talking to SD&R Clothing the other day, so maybe doing some things with them as well. So and over the years I've done stuff for Versace and Armani and things. So I have done a fair amount of the modeling business. Was very fortunate, I think, to have that to pay the bills because there's been a lot of lean times in music, and I've been fortunate that so far I haven't had to have like a regular job at all, so I'm really glad about that. As far as the acting goes, again, the last couple of years I've paid not one bit of attention to it, but there's this one movie that you had just mentioned, The Prophecy of the Sun, which is not a long movie. It started out as a concept, and it seemed to work together with my concept of sunglasses at night, and also going along with the White Warrior concept. So some people I was doing videos with at the time decided to do more of a full length film, and I'm looking forward to that getting finished. We're not all the way through that one yet, and having that come out. And I have another film that I did in LA and Las Vegas about 5 years ago called Love's Reality, and it's supposed to come out this year. It's with Robert Redford's son, Kaya Francis Redford, and the girl that wrote Girl Interrupted, Erica Cowell. So I'm playing a futuristic rock star, so it's a pretty cool role, and looking forward to seeing what that looks like. Generally speaking, though, at the end of doing that kind of a project, it's not really you. Like the difference between an acting project and a music project is that a music project is really you. I mean, you're really putting yourself out there pretty much as you are, and you're really comfortable in that identity. So you take it really personally. How that project does, to me anyway, maybe because that's where my heart is, but how that project does and how people receive it is like life and death, Whereas with acting roles, it's you get it done. You're that character while you're doing the part, and afterwards you're back to being yourself again. So you don't really, I don't take it so personally, but maybe that's because it's never been my, although while I'm doing it, I'm very serious about it and believe in it. It's not been what I've really seen myself doing, and what I've always seen myself doing is being a rock and roll guy. So I take this stuff very seriously and that stuff very lightly. So there's a difference. With modeling, interestingly enough, I find often that you are in a creative process, if you're lucky, with the photographer, and you can actually be more emotive in what happens than sometimes you can in acting, because in acting, a lot of times you're told exactly how the character has to be, and although you can focus it to some degree for yourself, it's very much the director's vision, and it's more of a artisan kind of thing rather than an artist kind of thing. So it's more of it's a kind of a pedestrian thrill. For the most part, I don't hang around with actors. For the most part, I find them pretty dull. I think seriously, there's certain actors that if they did anything interesting, and if the Leafs were to win the Stanley Cup in the same year, I think the world as we know it would end. I think the sun would not come up the next day. So that's a joke, by the way. Anyway.
Is there a lot of freedom of expression in acting or modeling where you can use your creativity, or do you have to basically do what directors tell you to do?
It differs project by project. I think in modeling overall, I found there's often, unless editorial modeling and lifestyle modeling, you do have a fair amount of freedom in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Catalog modeling, I don't even do, and now with my hair really long and everything, the last number of years is not something they're going to ask me to do anyway. But the thing about that is that you're going. It's sort of there's no creativity involved, and you're not really doing much. I mean, the photographer's being creative, and the makeup artist's being creative, and you're showing the clothes the best. But it's not about you. It's all about the clothes, and I don't think there's all that amount of creativity involved there for the person themselves. Except you have to be very good in front of the camera. Nothing's easy. Everything is hard. Everything is harder than it looks to be. But everything is easy and everything is hard. It's just it kind of is a dual-edged perception we have of other people and ourselves. But now in acting, it depends. Again, it's all with the director. If you're the featured character goes on. And you will have some creativity, obviously, in how you deliver the lines. You can say something different, like, I didn't say he stole the dog. 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 So as you punctuate a sentence, you can change the meaning of it. And you can change that to the character. You can do different accents, and I love doing accents and things. So all of that there's a certain amount of creativity with that, but it's nothing at all compared to the kind of creativity that you're afforded in writing a song, producing the song, and performing the song. You're actually creating the entire world there yourself. So there's nothing like the expression that you can do as I think a musical artist. Even drawing and painting, there's a lot of, obviously there's you can say more in one picture, they say, than you can say in any story, and there's more truth in one frame of one picture. There's more truth sometimes in still photography than there is in an entire movie. So a lot of it has to do with the photographer, I suppose, there. But so I guess all of the arts have there's a lot of expression you can put into it. But for me, I think the most layers of it go into music. One person can do anyway.
When these opportunities come in, do they present themselves all at once? And do you find that you're juggling the time with them, that it can be overwhelming?
It can be overwhelming, and if they do seem to come at once, and what you end up doing, or what I do, is that you've got to realize that you're only going to do one thing really, really well. And although, like right now, if the album does extremely well, and at the same time the album comes out, some of these films that I've done in the past come out, it would appear that I'm doing everything all at the same time, but really the films I was doing years ago. And the ad campaigns and things just take a second. They don't really take long. It takes long maybe to prepare for them physically and all of that stuff, but really they don't take too much time out of your day. But the thing that you're doing, you have to be concentrated on, and I believe to do it at the highest level, you have to be doing just that. Which again brings me to the thesis, the idea that you have to do something 100% and do it to its fullest potential. And we, as artists, I think you have to live it 100% of the time. And I think the fact that in Canada often the players are playing for so little right now, they have to do different kinds of day jobs. This wasn't the way it used to be. I think we all have to kind of take a step back and see what's best for the entire profession, the entire industry, and not work for free. I mean, I go to bars and I see mediocre bands playing, and I'm thinking, how the hell are they playing? At the end, they're like literally passing the hat, and the people that perform in the street have to get licenses. They have to be pretty good to do that, and they are good. Frequently you'll see a lot of good players in the street that have their busker's license, and they do a freak of a great job. They are professional musicians. They live it 100% of the time. And but as soon as you're up to things, and these bar owners that get bands in there for free in order to supposedly draw people in, which does help the bar at that moment, and the band that's playing for an audience instead of playing in their garage would appear to be helped at that moment. But in the long run, what it does is it lowers the expectations people have of bands. If a band's getting paid a decent wage, the person is not going to hire them unless they're pretty good, and quite good, really. And so if you're getting paid a decent wage, then you're going to have to work at being that good to know that you're going to be able to be playing in public. It'll make the band work harder, and the public, when they go to see that band that's really good playing, they're going to get a good idea, a good feeling about what live music is. Whereas now, a lot of people that see live rock music, light rock or heavy rock, medium rock, whatever, they're constantly listening to bands that are playing for free that wouldn't be playing at all if they weren't playing for free. And so you go out and you listen to bands that are mediocre, and you have a bad experience. You don't have the best experience. This is you'd rather hear a DJ, or you'd rather hear somebody just throwing on some baloney because your experience with live bands is not that good. So I think that everybody's got to take a step back. We have to put out great CDs, and like you'd mentioned before, vinyl. You mentioned that. I think we have talked before. It was not our first time meeting. So you mentioned vinyl, and because I think people want to own something. They don't want to own just air. They want to own something. They want to have something. They want to feel something, some relation. I think with the artist. I'm hoping that they still do. So
Yeah,
I think we have to do things at the highest level we can, and even as live performers, when we're performing live, which is where everything is nowadays too. Anyway, we have to make sure that we're really up to the task, that we're really going to do a good job, and this will raise the level of what people expect to see, and it will help live music in general. And there's no policing this. There's no way of making this way of thinking stick. We're kind of on the honor system here, and I think as soon as it's all about greed and things, but we've seen that complete. I mean, decimation is the wrong word. That's one in every 10 things destroyed. I'm not sure what annihilation. We've seen the annihilation of pretty much of mainstream live rock music, even on the radio, and a lot of that has been because we as performers in this genre have let it happen. I mean, we've let ourselves become mediocre. We've let the products we put out be mediocre. We've let good enough be good enough. We've let it be about the guitar solo instead of about the song. We've let it be about the singer wanking up and doing some 4-octave thing instead of doing what's part of the song. We haven't been considering the audience enough. We've been considering ourselves, not the audience. We're doing this for the audience. So at the end, if we want to do well ourselves, we have to consider the people that are listening to us and do things with all of our hearts, with all of our beliefs, and do them 100% as great as we could do them, the people around us will help us to do, and to really do something of excellence. And like I say, it's to our honor. We're on the honor system here. We have got to do this, and it's really quite the dilemma, because I feel it, and any musician feels it. You're doing something, and you feel like you want people to hear it. Somebody gives you an opportunity to let them hear it before you're ready, and you take it. And I still make this mistake, and I'm going to continue to make this mistake till the day I die. So really, the whole business has got to come together, and we have to somehow police ourselves and make sure, like musicians' unions rules should be in effect. Musicians should be getting paid a certain amount for gigs, and if they're not, then they shouldn't be doing the gigs. They should wait until they can, until they're ready to do it. And then you run into this situation of nepotism, where people only are hiring their friends, and it becomes a big mess. But what I hate to see, and it makes me really sick, I see these people that run contests for bands, and bands join these contests, and the bands are all playing for free, and the clubs are packed, and everybody's making money except the band. And what do they win? They win time in a recording studio, which isn't really costing the person that's running it very much at all. Or they may win a new guitar or something like that. But overall, it makes the whole experience of this art form into one big competition, which, I suppose in the end, it is something of a competition, but really, our only competition, the only thing we should be worried about, is the excellence of what we're doing. And then at the end, the whole idea of one art piece being better than another, it's totally in the eye or the ear of the beholder. And so that the whole notion does go out the door. But at the same time, we have to compete. We have to get chart numbers. We have to get this and that and the other, so that somebody knows who to validate and who to give money to. Unfortunately, that's what it all comes down to. But we do have to. We do have to work on this. You know what? I go on so much with things. I get so passionate about them. Sometimes I forget what the question is. Where am I right now?
I want to get back to the vinyl aspect of I'm Not Jesus. Do you plan on coming out with vinyl, and will you be signing them personally?
Yes, I do. And this is an idea that you had, and I'm glad that you brought it up, because it's something that I think makes a lot of sense. I think people do. Vinyl was a great medium. People could, there was a display, it was a nice display piece in the stores, and the artwork on the cover meant something, and it gave different kinds of artists a chance of really expressing themselves, in this format. And also, vinyl sounds great. It just sounds so much better than anything else. It's the highest level that we've had so far.
The sound opens up.
Yeah, so much. There's so much space. It's fantastic. And the whole analog sound is just way better. I mean, it's hard to describe, but if you listen to the two side by side, you can see that it's way more there. Mm-hmm. Although nowadays very small amount of money, you can buy speakers for $100 that will blow away sound systems that existed 15 years ago. So it's all sort of a trade-off. I'd say overall we're probably listening to music in a better way now. Even MP3s people will totally not agree with me on this, but MP3s played through a fantastic sound system sound a lot better than the best vinyl played through a crummy sound system. So whether we're listening to worse music now or not, I disagree with that. I think that's a matter of debate. I think we've progressed a lot in our recording techniques, etc., so that things are sounding really great nowadays. Still, I think that vinyl, people want to own a piece of something. I think they really do. How long are people wanting? I can see why people steal stuff. Because not that I think that anybody shouldn't. I'm certainly not condoning it, but because you're stealing from the artist that supposedly you love, and it's wrecked. It has pretty much wrecked the music business. It has completely flattened it, and it's flattening the movie business at the same time. But if you're owning air, people are asking you to buy air, which is what I'm asking people to do with my music now, and all artists are. It's easy. It's very easy. The idea of stealing something, because you don't really have anything anyway. You just got it's just an air. It's an idea of something. So I could see why vinyl would come back, and it would just be great for vinyl to come back. I think it would be just a fantastic turnaround, and I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, I heard people talking about it for quite a while. People have been saying vinyl's coming back. I don't really know the statistics still, but you tell me it's coming back, and it sounds good to me, because it was the best art form and the best way to display the artwork, to display the artist, and also the best way to reproduce live sound.
Yeah, exactly. That's right.
And I will sign them, absolutely. No question about that. Special edition, absolutely, yes.
Awesome. The one thing that really caught my interest on your main website, parisblack.com, was your role as a human statue. Can you share some of the hilarious moments of the surprising your audience with this performance?
Well, that's really interesting, because if anybody that knows me personally knows I'm a pretty lively person, and people think that I'm doing crack or something half the time, or some kind of amphetamines, and I'm definitely not. It's just, nobody would have thought I would have been able to stand still but for a long time. What happened is I started to do some modeling gigs where I was standing still, and they worked really well, and then I did a gig where I was being a statue of Adonis or something at the Falls View Casino, and I ended up sticking with that job for 5 years, and it worked really great, and people really think you're a statue, so you really can scare people. I mean, it's hilarious. You move a little tiny bit and people jump out of their skins. It never gets old. It's not really a funny story at all, but there was a time at the casino Caesars in Windsor that I was being a statue, and two old ladies were watching me. I was my finger a little bit, and one old lady fell, and the other old lady, and they ended up having to have defibrillators and everything coming. So that was pretty scary, actually. But there's lots of things happen. Like once there was a gang of people sort of coming up to me in the Detroit casino, and they go, "He don't be real. He be real. He don't be real. He be real. He don't be real." And then you move a little bit, and then all of a sudden, everybody screams, everybody runs out of the way. You see people jumping out of their shoes. One time, this lady jumped out of her shoes and actually landed in a garbage can. It was really comical, and it happens all the time. There was another instance where the mayor of Mississauga, who's about, I don't know, she's about 181, I think, and everybody treats her with a lot of, she's a very venerated person. And so I was doing the statue thing there, and she thought obviously that I was a real statue, and I wasn't wearing too much, and she ended up putting her hand exactly where she shouldn't put it. And the photographers were taking pictures, and for the newspaper the next day, and nobody wanted to tell her to move her hand, including me, because I'd had this experience already with old ladies literally almost dropping dead when I moved. So I didn't want to be the one to tell her she had her hand in the wrong place and I was actually a real person. And neither did the photographers. So it wound up being pretty funny, and ended up it was hard not to laugh. But I find the whole thing is I actually feel like I astroplane when I'm doing the statue stuff. I'm leaving my body, and it's pretty interesting experience. Do
you have any videos of you being a human statue, like in the malls or parties or anything like that?
I believe there's a video up somewhere. I think there's one on Facebook. You could find it. So yeah, there's something around. A lot of it is, there's a lot of pictures of myself doing it, and catch people getting caught in a moment where you sort of move at them. I mean, it's not all about scaring people. It's an art form that's been around a long time. Thousands of years ago, the people, or hundreds of years ago, when Michelangelo got the statue of David or something, that was an actual person he thought should be David, and that model would stand there still for days on end and be paid a wage. Same with the people that Rembrandt would have painted, or any of the great artists, Botticelli or whatever. That these artists all were painting real people, and those people would have to stand pretty much like statues. Also, in parties in ancient Greece and Rome and Egypt, having real gold statues was a very expensive proposition, and moving them from one place to another when they were made out of marble was pretty much impossible. So way back in those days, for plays or for parties, these human statues would be brought into play, and that's where the art form came about. So it's a long running thing, and it's amazing how you have so much control in stillness that you really wouldn't expect, because generally you have to work a lot for an audience, and people are really pretty amazed with stillness. I think they're becoming more and more amazed with it as time goes on, because our lives are becoming more and more hectic, and there's like tons and tons of things going on at once. You don't see stillness. I mean, even the movies you watch now look to be 3D, so there's like more movement than we've ever seen in the past. So when you see something being still, it's quite riveting.
Now, getting back to your album here, since you made the comeback into the music scene, have you been able to achieve most of your goals for your new album, I'm Not Jesus?
You know, I have, and I think I'm surpassing them now. Mm-hmm. My goals originally were to have this album come out and to get signed by majors all over the world, and pretty much right away that's what happened. However, the deals that I signed were perhaps not the greatest record deals in terms of making money, and so I'm now going back and redoing a lot of these deals because there was a clause in my contract where I could, and so I am. So a lot has taken place, but there's still a lot to go, and when it's all done, there will be that big tour. There will be majors, signs for all the majors around the world, and there will be some good charters. Well, you know, what I'm basically looking for is just to be able to be doing this for the next 25 years of my life, you know. So that's what I'm more or less looking at, and that's what the goal was. And the first stage of that goal was to do an album of excellence that everybody would agree was excellent, and that's pretty much happened, thank God. And then the next thing was to be able to have no weak links, make sure the video was just as strong, the live performance was at least as strong, and the photography, etc., was just as strong, and that's happened. And then people like yourself coming along now was the other thing that needed to happen. Along with everything else, you need help. You can't do this alone. It's a team sport for sure. So you know, it's funny because there's a cliche in the business of people having their product rejected, and all of a sudden somebody says, that's a hit. You know, that's not really the way it goes. You may take a lot of years in the wilderness, as I did, where your project isn't good enough. And usually if people are telling you your project's not good enough, it's not that they don't know what they're talking about. It's usually your project isn't good enough. So you got to get back to the drawing board and make sure it's good enough. So a lot of it is more making sure things are good enough. And, you know, when you achieve that first thing, a lot of other things will fall into place. And I think again, there's a certain amount of paying your dues. A lot of people disagree with the statement, and in some ways, you know, a lot of performers you'll see earlier in their careers, they do better than they ever do later. And so sometimes the sort of freewheeling, adrenaline pump performance is the best. But I think in a lot of ways, you might see somebody on that night, on one night, being absolutely amazing, and they might never touch that night again. Mm-hmm. But over a consistent amount of performances, let's say you watch somebody 20 times, the person, which is often me, that's often like this, does an erratic, spectacular performance, may follow it up with like a few clunkers. And as you get more experience and you play more, you won't have those face plants. You'll be really good every night. It's the balancing act is to have the spontaneity to be able to be fabulous, really fabulous, but never be less than very, very good. And so this is the trade-off you try to get to. You try to rehearse it to death, but at the same time keep the spontaneity involved. And that's a balancing act that I think every artist has to try to achieve.
Do you have any plans to release I'm Not Jesus digitally through iTunes and Amazon?
Yes, absolutely. That's going to be the first release. I guess that's where most of the money is right now. So any time now, it should be coming up on iTunes, and we were talking about possibly coming up on Reverb Nation, where you're very strong, and your affiliates around the world. You know, that the great thing about the digital marketplace is that if you have a great product and people believe in it, then politics can pretty much go out the window, which is great, because there's so much politics in music and the whole business. There's so much of people knowing people for a long time and sticking with those same people, et cetera, et cetera. There's something to be said for that too, in terms of, you know, building relationships. I think the music business is about building relationships. But someone like you coming along and believing in a project is a tremendous help to the project. And the whole digital world, again, it's the people deciding on what they want to hear, which is absolutely tremendous. So there's a lot to be said for it. The only problem with it is that there's a gigantic amount of clutter, because people don't, you know, all of a sudden, you know, it's like you said, okay, my product is in Walmart. Your product's in Walmart. There's maybe a couple thousand products at Walmart maximum, you know, and people can very easily find your product. If somebody doesn't know you specifically, and they're specifically just looking for the best new music, they hit iTunes and there's like 1 trillion billion new things, and it's very hard for people to know what's there. So unfortunately, it's like artists need majors more than they ever did. In seeking to be independent, we've created such a logjam that we really need the majors for some kind of a stamp of approval on your product, that the people can go towards it and know where they're more likely to find something that they're going to like than to listen to a bunch of dribble. Again, people listening to bad stuff turns them off from listening to new music at all, which is why you hear on the radio the same rock songs playing 40 years ago playing now, because people advertisers don't want to take a chance on new stuff, because frequently new stuff sounds like crap, whereas before, when it was harder to do new stuff, it would all sound good. Now, advertisers want to say, well, okay, put me on after the Stones, or put me on after the Doors, or put me on after Lenny Kravitz, or put me on after Bon Jovi, or put me on after, you know, whomever. And, you know, that, if we want that to change, we got to police ourselves and do great stuff. And that sort of all, you know, it all comes around again. So yes, in short, I will be releasing on iTunes, and I'm hoping to have as much support as possible, because that's where you make your money now. And it comes down to business. And if people like what I'm doing, I would hope that they would support me. It doesn't cost much to buy a single, you know, and you get you start getting some chart numbers happening, and that's when the tours happen, so you can get out there and meet your public in person and put on a great show for them. Awesome. But also, if they want a great show, they got to make sure the artist is supported. There's no way in hell somebody can be working in a post office all day and then be great at night. There's no way in hell somebody can be a teacher all day. Somebody can be a banker all day. Somebody can be whatever they're doing all day, because in order to really be an artist, to really mean it, you have to be living it, and you have to be there has to be a payoff at the end of the day. There's nobody can live on $75 a night, you know. So you can't. We've got to give some value to the arts. We have to support each other, and you know, we're supporting each other when we don't release something that shouldn't be released. We're supporting each other when we don't play until we're ready to play. We're supporting ourselves, and we're supporting the business in general.
Will you continue to stay in the music scene and produce more songs in the future?
Well, as I said, I've got another album already in the bag, and yeah, I will. You know, I've got a feel for a lot of different kinds of music, and I'm sure that I'll continue to be producing it. If things go as planned, and I have keep relationships with all the majors and different labels, you know, I just started dealing with Brad True here in Canada. I've known him for quite a while, and he's a really good guy. And I find that's really refreshing, you know. A good guy that works hard, pretty cool. Anyway, but I would see, you know, I'd like to ultimately, I think every artist wants to start their own label. And really, you know, as much as we're competitive with each other, I think we do want to give each other breaks. I think we do. You know, you've been in the business a little time like myself. You know, you see somebody starting out, you see all the shit they're going to go through, because you see all the stuff they're going to go through, and you see them making mistakes, you kind of like to just take them under your wing and say, do it this way and it'll go better. And there's no better way to do that than to have a label yourself and be able to guide people along. And of course, we want to stay in the business. But I think for myself, as much as I want to do that, I think my true passion is always going to be as a performer, and I'm going to do that as long as I can, But you know what? I don't want to become in any way. As soon as I can't bring it, I'm going to stop bringing it. I don't want to be one of these people that hang on too long, and they're doing a 70% show. I want to make sure I can do a 100% show. That image-wise, I'm 100% of where I want to be. That musically, I'm 100% where I want to be, and I can present the show I want to present. Now, that's not to say that I might not change into different forms of music as I move along. There's definitely a chance of that.
What are some of your hopes and the goals that you want to focus on in the next 3 years, or things you want to accomplish?
Well, I want the album to do great for a lot of reasons. And the first time around, I think the thing I was most proud of that I did was I started this charity called Chill Out, and it really helped people all over the world. It helped homeless people all over the world. And I worked on that charity for about 13 years, and it started off with walking along Queen Street West and seeing somebody laying on a grate. And at that time, there wasn't all the, Chill Out started, Project Warmth, and all of these different things that got Canadian Tire involved, even got close to different parts of the world, and it ended up making people that were cold live through the night. But ultimately, I have to say it wasn't really successful because it didn't influence the will of the day, and the will of the day has always been to build more expensive condos than to let people live a life they really should be living, and that with dignity. So you have to change the world's will to make that happen. And I think maybe at this stage now, where the world is, although that is a gigantic problem and will continue to be a problem, and I think Habitat for Humanity and things like this are things that people should really contribute to, and these will be things I'll always want to contribute to. I think right now a lot of my ideas have run towards Green Party things, like I was saying earlier, and there's two things I'd like to make happen. If anybody's listening, they can help make this happen. I'd like to see plastic bikes in the downtown core that are made from recycled plastic that have no value to them in terms of being resold, and that so in downtown cores of city, people could go around on these bikes and leave them there again, creating less smog in the cities. And I have another plan to create a card where people can travel around cities without having to bring their cars into cities. So we can have more of a smog-free kind of environment, and ultimately all of these green things I think the idea of selfishness and greed, which is sort of being built up more and more and more into our culture, has got to be combated, and ultimately this will be combated by the green movement in general. And we'll just be saving the lives of ourselves and the world coming as well. So I'd like to have a voice that way, I suppose what I'm saying. I think I don't know whether that's the right of artists to have this kind of voice at all, but the public gives it to us for some reason or another. So if you know you're going to get that kind of that kind of a voice, then I think it behooves us to have something decent to talk about, and that's where I'd like to go with that. The other side of it is that there's no better fun, there's no better job than playing rock music. There's just no more fun. There's no more way to get your yayas out than to do that. So I just like I would like to create a platform where over the next 25 years, that's exactly what I'm doing, is doing rock and getting my yayas out.
From your experience working in the entertainment field for many years, what advice do you have for musicians, actors, models, just starting to break into the field?
I guess I've been repeating this over and over again. Do everything at the highest level. Mm-hmm. Never assume for a second that good enough is good enough, because it just isn't. We can't make excuses for ourselves. You have to do everything you can do at the highest level. Working on things, training is very important. So in all of it, whatever it is you're going to do, I would say two things. I would say, if you just want to do it, don't do it, because you probably won't succeed, because what it's asking of you is going to be everything. It's going to be your life, your blood, your soul. It's going to be everything. That you'll be asked to give everything to this profession. Eventually, by the time by the time you're done getting there, you'll really have contributed way more than you thought. However, if it's what you have to do, if you never feel that you fit in anywhere else, really, and you're just a live performer. If you're not on stage, you might be doing silly things in front of people everywhere. It's just part of a performer's nature is to perform. Then you have to do it, and if you have to do it, then you have to do it great, and just put everything you have into it, and keep your heart as pure as possible. I think people can pick up on that as well. So I would say if you're going to do it 100%.
What's your opinion of the music industry today compared to the 80s?
Well, again, I was in it more the end of the 80s and the early 90s, but as I've said, I think the big difference is that nowadays it's just too easy to do CDs, quite honestly. It's just too easy to do them. And because of this, there's just such a glut of stuff out there that nobody can tell what's good and what isn't good. And also the amount of thievery going on in the business nowadays, which is like probably 90% thievery. I mean, artists are seeing their biggest sales. It's got to be their sort of the time their albums break it out, and then after that everything's stolen. So I mean, seriously, it was a lot better than the biggest. The ease of doing things has created a glut of things, and there's not as much good stuff. I mean there is an upside of that, in that there's people that would never have gotten a chance to record that are recording, and so you see people. There are stories of people doing something fantastic and it coming out on YouTube or something, and it getting like 20 million hits, and the person's a big star. This never would have happened before, and they're contributing music and life and love to the world that never would have happened. And this is the rare story, but it's like a lottery. People do win the lottery. People do win millions of dollars at Vegas. And they do win millions of dollars in casinos. But for the most part, if you go into a casino, you're going to come out the poorer for it. And so we're creating kind of a lottery system of music now, where you don't know what you're going to get. You may come up with something fantastic, but more chances are you're going to come up with something crappy. You look on YouTube and you're looking for something, you find something else, and it takes 10 things before you find the right thing you're looking for. There's so much new stuff coming out, and a lot of it's very, it still is in its developing stages, but it's being put out there just because it can happen now. So it's much harder to make a living at it now than it was. It was, but back in the day, we thought it was hard to make a living, but we were all making a living. We'd be upset that we weren't making as much as maybe doctors or something, but now I think nobody could have seen this thing coming of bands playing for free, of CDs that people spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on being given away, or CDs appearing to be the same thing as somebody that spent no money and no time. It's not just the money. I mean, it's really the time and the effort, and the time it takes is the time it takes. And so I think that the business has suffered greatly. Although their saving graces are again things like your show and people like you and people that take what they're doing seriously. I think what the big factor is how seriously people are taking things. I mean, I know you do this 100% of the time. This is your thing. This is what you do.
Yes.
And so you're going to become really great at it. It's people that do things as sort of a sidebar that end up hurting the entire business. And again, I would just say, if you're in this business, be in it. If you're not in it, don't be in it. But don't be halfway in it and halfway not in it. Be completely in it. And and that's advice I would give to everybody. I think you'd quoted Kim Mitchell to me before, and it was fairly accurate. Although I think it's very accurate, but I think there's still a lot of records being sold, and the mega groups are selling more records, the mega performers, than anybody ever sold. So they're still selling a ton, but there's far fewer of them doing it. So there's like 1 trillion people putting out CDs, and the ones that are making the career of it are doing astronomical numbers, and there's very few of them at the top, and there's like 1 trillion million underneath that aren't, And so, for instance, earlier we were talking about a band, and we were saying you're saying they're doing very well. I think Define doing very well. So they're getting a lot of gigs, and they're playing a lot. Well, that is great. That's what we all want to do. But I remember, in the day we were saying somebody was doing very well. We were talking about, well, they're charting on Billboard, it's doing this, it's doing that. All of a sudden, there's a Jacques Pettibone remix, and it's doing fantastic, and they've got up to making 50,000 a night, and that was what we were considering was very well. It was a given that if you had a record out and it was getting some airplay, that you were playing every night. That was a given back in the day. Now it's very rare. And so you see that person's doing well. So I mean, the expectations of the music business it's imploded onto itself, and things have got to change. It's like I don't know what the answer is. I think the movie business found the answer in Avatar, in doing films that are so high tech, that they can't be, that you have to wear special glasses to see them. You need a TV that gets like 1 billion pixels, to watch it at home. If you want to watch, you got to watch it in a big theater. And so I think they kind of solved their problem, although to the probably detriment of storytelling, because there's less people who can tell stories at that level, and when it's all about the effects, it's less about the story and the acting. So there has to be some kind of medium ground we can find with music to have like a different way of bringing music to people that sounds so fantastic that it's again unobtainable to people that are sort of doing it in their spare time. And also we've got to raise our expectations. We've got to be hearing things at the best sound quality. Then people are where we're settling into listening to lower and lower sound quality, and seeing videos that are like more and more mediocre, and there's got to be some thought given into all of it. So I'm not saying things are all worse today, because there's a lot. What I think is better today in the business, frankly, is I think that your average 20-year-old kid nowadays has their head screwed on way better than the average 20-year-old kid in 1990. I think today kids are less likely to be obsessed with drugs or drinking, or I think people are more socially aware than they ever were. I think there's less in the general population. There's less of a misogynistic kind of a character going, with the exception of rap lyrics everywhere else. I mean, nobody else is talking about getting busy in the Burger King washroom. And I think rock lyrics used to be like that as well. So a lot has changed, and changed for the better in I think society itself, and people themselves, and kids themselves. And so these kids are now going to be doing better music, deeper music, more important music than I think may have happened before. And I think part of the reason for this is that the world now, there's really things to be angry about. Back then there was a lot less to be angry about. I mean, everybody's always angry. Young people are always angry at something or another. It's just always part of history. It's just, as you're finding your way, you always rebel against the generation ahead of you. But now there's a lot to rebel against. Again, we're seeing the earth being polluted to the point where 90% of the fish stocks are being depleted, where the air and the quality of living is just so unbelievably terrible in more parts of the world than have been involved before, where governments are openly lying to us and starting wars that never should have been started. That never should have happened. There was never anything there, and then we have total propaganda television, and where the true television is coming out on YouTube now. So this is one area that has actually, I think, in the television content has actually improved, sort of, I think. Although, it's all reality rather than drama. Is bad for the actors, but that has improved. But I think, in general, art's always a reflection of society, and I think the young people in society today are way more together than they were 20 years ago. Like, talking about teenagers and 20-year-olds are, generally speaking, more together. I mean, there's a lot that aren't, but there's more that are. So that's part of what's better today, and I'm really hopeful about these things. But again, it's just the quality of music has gone down so much, and the expectations that musicians could have that spend their lives giving it to music, the expectations they go in with have to be lower now, because there's less that can happen. However, I think if you don't do anything wrong, if you do everything exactly right, I believe there's as good a chance as ever of having a big record as there ever was.
In your artwork, is that going to appear on your main website soon?
I hope so. I've got to get into my freaking website. If the person that designed it would get back to me and give me the codes to get in there, I've got a whole new website developed, and there's some fantastic stuff to go up there. Art's been something that's been very close to me, and I had made a decision a long time ago that to give away a lot of my art, because for a very long time, art has been something that's gone with the couch. People get a big picture that's the same color as their couch, and so it's the really great art has been diminishing and diminishing and diminishing. So I think if you do something that you're close to and that you spend a lot of time on, well, for me anyway, because that's not where I make my living, I feel like I can give that stuff away, although I may be hurting other artists. When I think about it, I hear myself talk, and I'm wondering if I'm actually creating the same kind of problem I see musicians creating for the musicians when I do that. So maybe I should sell my art and give the money to some kind of charity or another, but still sell it. So I'd like to see it up there. Yeah, 'cause it was the first thing that I'd done. It was where I thought I was going for a long time, and I find it really. I like to do portraits a lot, and I think one of the things I'm going to be doing is a portrait of Obama for a human rights thing. And apparently, he had actually seen my work that I'd done of Nelson Mandela and had wanted me to do this. So that means a lot to me to do that, and I still have a lot of faith in that president. So I hope things pick up for him. And it was the first thing, but it doesn't it doesn't really speak to who I am as a person. I'm a way more out there person. I can't really be locked up to an art forever, or else I go to my mind, and that's sort of I am now. So I gotta get on stage pretty soon. So that's where it all comes from, and I would like to see it up there. Yes, it's a really big part of me. It was a big part of my life for a long time. I'm doing a lot less of it now, but I'm very. It's very pure for me. It's very real and pure, and there's no expectations of it other than to create something that I think speaks to all of us.
Before we wrap up our interview, is there any upcoming shows you would like to announce?
Oh gosh, there's two, and I will get the second date to you. I can't believe I don't have it written down right now. But the first one is April 8th at the Mod Club. It's an important show for me because it's Kenny McLean's new stuff, and Kenny died like last year, and I known him since I was 16. So he's always kind of a mentoring figure to me, and it's I believe I'm going to be doing his two new singles at the show. So the Mod Club, as I said, on April 8th, and it means a lot to me to do that show. So I'm looking forward to it. It's a great venue and a great stage, and the other performers that are going to be there are really good, including Mark Holmes from Plaid and Blonde, and Benny and his band, of course, and Kenny's son Devlin, and so it's a great lineup of people that night, and I'm hoping it's for it to be a good show. And I'm opening up for a big pop artist from France at Cool House in late April, and I will get the date to your listeners in the next little while. So those are the two big shows that are coming up. I'd love to be announcing a big tour right about now, and I should have been. I feel like I really should have been. I mean, we were talking earlier in the year about doing all the major concerts in Europe this summer, and now I'm not sure if that's going to happen. So really kind of open up. So I think I'm going to be doing the big Woodstock thing this July.
Awesome.
So that should be a really big show as well. Yeah, I mean that's right now. My first interest is to get everything out properly and have a big push on it. And hopefully your listeners will help me out with that if they like the product. And for myself and all the other artists that you interview and that you promote and you champion tirelessly, please support us because we're serious about what we do. We want to give the world great music, progressive music. We want to mark where we feel we are in our lives and where society is that's influencing us, and to be able to turn the mirror back on everybody to enjoy with us and to have a cathartic experience as music always was. So we hope that you support us, don't steal from us, and continue on.
Anything you wish to say to your fans?
Oh my gosh, there's a video. There was a special on Rock and Talk years ago on me, and I think you can find it on my website, on my YouTube site somewhere, where I said back then that the greatest thing that had happened to my career back in the day when I was a teenager, 20 years ago, was my fans sticking by me and writing the shows and writing the radio stations and believing in me and passing that belief on. That is what allowed my career to take off. More than anything else, at the end of the day, that's what made it take off. It's not. It's not. You can't do it yourself. You can't do it yourself. I mean, all the people that are out there writing it a million times for themselves and doing this and that. It's not the way it works. You've got to get people to believe in you, and once they do believe in you, you got to thank them forever, because they're the ones. We're doing music for the fans. I mean, we're doing it for them, and if we do it well, they will reward us by hopefully supporting us and helping us to go where we need to go in order to keep doing this. I mean, my expectations are not to be, to have a limousine for each foot or anything like that. It's just to continue to do what I love to do, and I like to think I do pretty well, and I like to continue to do that. And so I can't thank my fans enough for the fact that they stuck by me in the past, and I think now my music style has drastically changed, and what I'm doing is drastically different. So I'm pretty much looking at all new fans, and I hope to be able to reach them the same way as I was able to in the past, and that together we move forward, not just in the music, but also in various ways of enlightening the world, and enlightening the world with all of the wonderful things that are in it. And I can't say enough to my fans. They've helped me in the past 1,000%. It was what made it happen, and if it's going to happen again, the level I want it to is going to be all about them as well.
Thank you, Paris, for this interview. Hornsaw, you rock. I look forward to attending your show, one of your live shows soon at the Mod.
Yeah, the Mod is April 8th. I will hopefully see you there for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one's the Cool House. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that.
Okay.
We'll see how that goes.
All right. I definitely want to get out and see you play live.
Absolutely. Well, I totally. That's, I think, what I like to think that's where I'm best.
Mm-hmm.
And people want to see the kind of live show that they would see. They could look at YouTube or look at the Wild One HD performance. I think that's this is where I like to be thought of live, and the kind of show I like to do live. And the Mod Club show is going to be a lot more reserved than that, because it's Denise Martel and Kenny were working on this album together, and they had brought a more reserved album together. But I still think there's always a crackle of humanity in a live show if you're really believing it and feeling it, and the songs are great. There's an energy there that can't be brought any other way. Thank you.